Valve gives a peek into its recommendation algorithm. They released a video presentation last week explaining Steam's recommendation system, which is a mix of algorithmic visibility and curated featuring, with the former being personalized. So featured, recommended, discovery queue, curator recommendations, and the latter shown to everyone, like special offers. These special offers are primarily decided on the basis of revenue. Quote, when a bunch of players are spending time and money on your game, it's a really strong signal to Steam that it could be interesting to other players too. If you're looking to be part of a midweek or weekend deal, you're going to need to be in the top few hundred best-selling games on all of Steam. According to the presentation, Steam's algorithm does not favor recent over old titles. Could have guessed that.
Yep.
Doesn't highly weigh store page traffic and only downweighs negatively reviewed games if they are below 40% positive.
Whoa.
That's interesting. So you have to have
pretty negative,
really bad game for it to affect its algorithmic positioning. Wish lists do affect the popular upcoming section prior to a game's release, but early access releases don't drive visibility on an algorithmic level. According to Valve's business team, Steam doesn't sell ad space on its storefront because they don't think the platform should be pay to win. And that Steam's level playing field and recommendation system leads to surprise hits emerging organically, such as Pseudo Regalia and Dave the Diver. This is really cool. We talked a ways back.
The platform shouldn't be pay to win, but if people spend money in your game, it algorithmically wins.
Yeah, well,
because they want you to spend money in the game.
But that's not paid by the developer.
Monetization options that positively influence Steam.
Sure. I get what you're saying, but they mean the platform exposure itself is not pay to win. And
unless you build systems into your game that positively influence
Sure, but
Steam.
okay. I think you're kind of being like that about it.
A little bit.
Yeah, okay, good. But what's interesting about this is we talked a few months ago about the general enshittification of the internet. And
Steam has definitely resisted this.
They have resisted
I will 100% give them that.
Resisted. They have definitely participated in some of these. Some of this, getting past your customer first mindset into a profits first mindset. But
it could be so much worse, and it's not.
This philosophy, I hope it survives. Because Amazon is such a great example of this. Used to be great to shop on. It's atrocious. It is. I don't browse at all anymore.
I used to. I don't
at all. Even when I want to shop on Amazon, it's not worth it. Like, we've done streams in the past on Prime Day, for example, where we are actively looking for deals, and they are there in a lot of cases, but they're so hard to find. That's why you need someone doing a Prime Day stream to show you where anything good is.
Yeah, I used to. I don't like buying from Amazon because I don't like Amazon. But I used to shop on Amazon and then try to find if I could find that thing somewhere else, because shopping on Amazon was just so much of a better experience, and that's just not true anymore.
Yeah, Dr. Gizmo in Twitch chat says they don't need ads, they get revenue from game sales. Yeah, Amazon gets revenue from selling the product.
Yeah, obviously.
But they charge for ads anyway because they're at this point where all they care about is shareholder returns now. Whereas in the early stage, all they cared about was customer acquisition.
Yeah.
And it's this great article that I forget where it is, but it basically talks about the enshittification of everything, and lays out in really easy to understand terms how this life cycle, why this life cycle, what this life cycle is of especially internet brands. And maybe part of the reason it's so focused on internet brands is because we see this evolution happening so fast, from a focus on the customer to, I forget what the 3 stages are. It's like customer, employees, and then shareholders or something. I can't remember, but it's, customers, then partners, then shareholders. So first, Amazon was all about customers, and it was all about just the best possible experience to the customers. Screw you, partners and shareholders. You make no money, and whatever. And then it was all about partnerships. You grow. We've got a customer base that you want to access. Let's get huge. And then you're huge, and you go, okay, time to make money now. Turn on all the money spigots. It's a really good article. Speaking of Valve, okay, I tried reaching out privately. It's time for me to take this public, guys. We need to talk about the Steam hardware survey.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you're in a relationship.
No.
Okay. What's up?
This is what I sent to Valve a couple months ago. Could the Steam hardware survey please be updated to include the generation and approximate spec of a CPU rather than just the core count and frequency? The logic that Valve used to split them out the way that they did made a lot of sense at the time. Core counts of 1, 2, 4, 8, and other helped guide the importance of developers' efforts to multi-thread their games and provided insight into which consumers were buying entry, mainstream, enthusiast, and exotic CPU configurations. 1, 2, 4, 8, and other would have pretty easily fallen into those categories. Frequency at that time was a strong indicator of the per-core performance, again, providing valuable insight to game developers and other people. The issue is that over the last 10 years, core counts have moved to the point where not enough cores is only a problem for thin and light laptops or very entry-level machines, and frequency is no longer the performance indicator that it once was. And I sent them an illustration. So this is a graph from AnonTech showing the Core i9 11900K, 12900K, and 13900K. These processors have only a 10% difference in frequency, but a 30% difference in performance. Now, I know Valve is, whatever tool you're using can read CPU model names and numbers, and I think it would be worth the relatively, I know this would actually be a fair bit of work, but I think it would be worth the relatively small investment to split CPUs by generations and families. So like 13th gen, Core i9. If that's something they're interested in, I would love to provide input. I think the Steam hardware survey is incredibly
Super
valuable.
Yeah.
And this is my pitch. This is my pitch for why Valve should put actual time into it. The Steam hardware survey generates a ton of organic press coverage for Valve.
Yep.
And doesn't just help people in the media like me, but also helps game developers and gamers.
Yeah.
It used to be a far more useful tool to look at and go, okay, like, what should I buy? Because you know that game developers are going to target the lowest common denominator. And so if you just go buy whatever's super popular in the Steam hardware survey, then you're probably going to be covered for at least some time period X.
And honestly, looking at the computer, if you just built this computer, Windows 10 64-bit, 16 gigs of RAM, somewhere between 2.3 and 2.69 nice gigahertz, 6 CPUs, a 3060, 8 gigs of VRAM, 1080p monitor probably, 100 to 250 gigs of free space.
That'd be a pretty solid computer.
A solid enough computer to play most games decently well.
But there are going to be systems that would meet those requirements, like that frequency and core count,
2.3 gigahertz,
that would be utterly unsuitable.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a bit misleading in its current form.
And that's pretty much the only category.
Particularly around CPUs, which is why that's the only thing I actually brought up.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit misleading, and I think it has the potential to not be as useful as it was. And I mean, Valve never asked my permission or told me why they're making the Steam hardware survey. So this is all just based on my assumptions of why it exists, for why it exists. I don't actually know that. I just think that it is probably intended as a tool to guide developers to help them target the largest possible player base on Steam.
A developer who's working on the performance aspect of my game, trying to come into meetings where some other developer wants to implement a certain feature, and I know that the performance impact of that feature is going to move the bar regarding what computer people would need to have. If I know that pushes that bar beyond that computer that we just stated, that's going to give me a ton of ammo in this meeting to try to make sure that feature is either not done or done in a different way that is more performance friendly or whatever. Like, this would be very helpful for actual situations that actual developers are going to actually be in. Actually, yeah. So
actually is a garbage word that I overuse.
That'd be great
to an embarrassing degree. Like, I'm going to actually explain to you guys how merge messages work.